that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or current Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Yeah, that whole thing. You go, wow. I was gonna do the boom boom, but I got this in my lap, so it's not gonna happen. So this is book 5, Allies, again written by Christie Golden. Christie Golden ended up becoming a big thing in the canon novels, but as for her contributions to the expanded universe, there's really only to Fate of the Jedi that she had any contribution to it. And so here we are, and I'm sitting here trying to tell you, like, there are moments of brilliance throughout this entire trilogy. There is also a bunch of mediocrity and horrible pacing and just not good. Just consistently not holding my attention, and then you get to like certain sections where you're like completely and utterly engaged. But if it wasn't for those particular sections, you're just sitting there like, hold on. Sorry about that. Something was going wrong. There's a lot of stuff that I really like in this book. And before it comes off as me coming off super negative. Basically, Ben and Luke have to team up with the lost tribe of the Sith to defeat a greater evil. Now that premise and that plot thread, amazing. Because this has only happened twice in the entirety of the expanded universe. No matter what you're counting. Whether that be video games, to comics, to novels, supernatural encounters, all in out. You know, the only 2 times we've ever seen this happen was in SWTOR, Knights of the Eternal Throne, or whatever it's called. Where the Jedi and the Sith actually team up to defeat Valkorion, as he's a third faction, and that third faction is considered a more dangerous threat than either of them, that they're willing to put their differences aside and work together to defeat a greater evil. I like that. You know, as Sith are mainly the bad guys throughout history, let's actually have something worse than that. And Abeloth, on paper, should be more of a threat than Valkorion ever was. So we have 2 examples in the entirety of 5,000 years of history, even more so for counting more recent stories. That's that. So, what do they do with it? Not too much, besides this book. And that's the thing. I'm really struggling here. There's a lot of really good moments throughout, but there's also a lot of dragging. So we've got a couple of plot threads going on. We still have everything on Coruscant, with Dala furthering down. And at first, it was so compelling to see a former villain genuinely try to be legally good, but be in confliction with the heroes, even though her reasons were justified to an extent. Now, she's just kind of turning into bad guy again. You have this potential, and now you're dropping it for simplicity. Now, there is still more nuance to it. She's not just a villain. She's more of a Borsk Phala at this point. But regardless of that, it feels like the nuance is dropping as the books go on. Shoving the Mandalorians into the Jedi Temple constantly and being a menace just kind of like doesn't have any of that nuance that was once had. The other thing we have going on is Takiri Vela's trial, and that's a really good section of the book. It's a very Better Call Saul-esque, and I very much enjoyed those sections. Whenever we have Ben and Vistara character moments of them building their relationship together, I enjoy that. But outside of that, from the Lando stuff to the Jaina stuff to the Jag stuff, it's just there. Like, I want to care about it so much. And the only way people are genuinely, there's two things. I mean, I got my friend, like, Maxine, who says she loves this more than Legacy of the Force. I really don't understand why. Perhaps it's just more fun, less depressing. But as to everyone else, I feel like it's only because they hate Legacy of the Force. And so Fate of the Jedi was like a breath of fresh air, I guess. But Legacy of the Force was consistent mostly in its tone. I mean, you get different sort of feelings throughout the different authors, but the tone is always dark, you know? It's never like just, oh, one super duper happy and one super duper not. Like, they're all serious. You know, Alston's probably the most fun out of the bunch. And then you get here, and it's like, yeah, it's fun, but it's also meandering, and it's also like the last book was just like complete filler. This actually like furthers the plot, so this is okay. But I don't know, like I'm struggling to explain to you logically why I don't think it works. I think it has to be the pacing primarily, because you get to these really good parts where you're completely invested and engaged, and then like other parts, like you feel like you're working to get there. And I don't know how better to explain that than just like some parts feel too long, even though it's not that long, and then the really good parts feel really short. So I don't know how to, I guess it just is pacing. I have a problem with the pacing of this book. And just the overall plot, because the plot has moved like molasses. The main plot, we have the first book. The second book is important. You need to introduce the Lost Tribe. You need to get us acquainted with Vistera, so that when we get to later books, you know, we appreciate all that stuff. But at the same time, it doesn't further the plot. Now, I'm not usually a plot guy. I'm a character first guy. But I feel like within all three of these authors, unlike, say, a Karen Travis or a Matthew Stover or Greg Keyes, they do character stuff, but it's more about the plot. The plot is the primary factor. Everything else is secondary, like the character stuff. And because of that, it comes too far in between for me, personally. However, if the plot was super intriguing, I could be okay with that, because that's kind of how Denning books go usually. It's kind of how Alston books go usually. Sometimes Alston will focus on characters more, like with Iron Fist, but other times it's more plot focused, though that was more Stackpole's forte, was plot first, character second. Anyway, and I don't have enough information on Christie Golden to know either way, but the point is that the plot itself can't move that fast, because 3 is addressing a lot of stuff in the previous series to give that further context, and at the same time is hinting at bigger stuff, but doesn't actually further the plot. 4 is completely meandering, sidetracking side plot that has nothing, almost nothing, outside of 20% of the book has to do with the main plot. And here is finally like a progression, but like 5 books in, and we only finally have our titular hero meet the titular villain at the end of the book, mind you. And then, you know, furthering all that stuff, but it took 5 books to get here. 5 books into Legacy of the Force, we had several instances of character development for Jason Solo, Ben Skywalker, and other characters, and regardless if you like it or not, a big, significant, affecting death in book 5 to further your investment. Now, if you hate that, you hate that. I don't care. I'm not talking about whether you like or dislike something. I'm just talking about what actually happens in the plot. And more happened in the plot of Legacy of the Force by book 5 than I feel like Fate of the Jedi has. I feel like we've barely actually started this story that's been going on for 5 books. And that frustrates me. And another trend that we'll begin to see, and this isn't too much of a spoiler, but Luke kills Abeloth. He doesn't, because she's fine. But he fights her, and he seemingly takes her down. But this becomes a trend. Now, sure, she keeps coming back, but it gets really frustrating and really hard to take this seemingly eldritch horror threat seriously when she's consistently taken down. And this will be a consistent thing throughout these books, and it really upsets me. Again, supernatural encounters is the only time I understood why everyone would ever fear her. Because it never seemed like Luke struggled that badly with this lady. Outside of the fact that she could be like multiple people at once, but we haven't even gotten there yet. Again, I'm sounding really negative. There's a lot of positives in here. You just have to wade through the mud to get through the good stuff. Anyway, but yeah, the best part of this book is the ending with Abeloth and the character development between Ben and Vistar. That's peak stuff right there. Everything else is from decent and good to outright boring. Get it? I didn't even mention to you, there's an entire plot thread on the Klatooine planet, and this is completely subjective. You might be enthralled by this. I don't know, but I was completely and utterly, like, I read it like a book report, you know, because I had to read it for this review. But if I wasn't trying to be professional about this, I would have just tried to skim through it as best I could, but it is absolutely boring. It hints at some things that could happen down the line, which again we won't see because right now the EU isn't being continued anyway. But outside of that, like, it deals with slavery and stuff, which is important because there's been slavery for 5,000 years in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and they've never just abolished it at this point, which is interesting. But it's so abysmally slow, dull, and boring to me, at least subjectively. So I could not find in my heart of hearts to give a single shite about what was going on in that portion. Now this is sounding really, really negative, and yeah, it kind of is, and I'm kind of remembering why I dislike this series so much. I don't hate it, I like it, but I can by no means ever say this is above Legacy of the Force for me, because the plot moves like molasses, the character development and the character interactions, like the deep ones, are like hidden amongst this plot that moves at a snail's pace. To, again, the Lost Tribe as a concept, maybe it will just flow with you perfectly and you'll fall in love with that. But at this point in time, we already know by Legacy of the Force that the one Sith from the Legacy comics are already a thing. And even if you don't like Legacy of the Force, Crosscurrent and Riptide by Paul S. Kemp with Jaden Core also talks about the one Sith. So this time we got Abeloth, we got the one Sith, and we got this Lost Tribe of the Sith, and out of the whole bunch, that's the least interesting, unique aspect of it all. Like, sure, the Lost Tribe has an entire culture and different sort of society due to the fact that they kind of had to grow together on this one planet. They form families and communities, so it's like the Sith, but like inherently nicer. Like, even the bad Sith on this planet to me don't feel like a serious threat, especially when Ben and Luke mow them down like they're nothing. But on top of that, none of them feel that evil. They feel like wannabe evil people. And I get it that they're technically the original Sith, so like they're more OG than even like, you know, Jason or Palpatine or Vader or any of them were. Like, they were like the legit, you know, the ones from the golden era, you know. But at the same time, it's nothing we haven't seen before. And like, sure, Jason was doing the same thing as like the rule of two and everything, and those sort of Sith. But at the same time, it felt like he was a lot different due to several factors that I've talked about, you know. So that was at least refreshing in that aspect. And, you know, we already know about the one Sith and everything, and their unique philosophy that's different from the ones that came before. But these are just Sith that have families and love each other, and I want to care, but I just don't. I can't find it in me to give a single shite about the one Sith outside of Vistara. I just can't. I've really, really tried to, but I can't. So there's so much here that I like, so much here that I don't, that I'm just sitting here conflicted constantly as I sit through this series, and it does not feel like fun. It feels like work. But I will continue because I'm doing these reviews for you guys. You know, I love the Expanded Universe, but that's the thing. Even when I have negative things to say about the EU, I'm still going to read these books again. Why? One, because I paid for them. Waste of money if I don't. Secondly, I love the EU as a whole. Will I be jumping for joy to jump right back into it? No, but I'll read them again because I love the Expanded Universe as a whole. Good, bad, and the ugly. I love the Expanded Universe. I wouldn't be talking about these things online ad nauseum if I didn't. So do I recommend this book? I mean, if you've been enjoying the 4 books in Fate of the Jedi series, then yeah, go for it. It's more the same. But if you haven't been, I don't know if Fate of the Jedi is for you. But, keep with it if you're a completionist like me. And despite everything I've said here, I want you guys to know that, if Disney one day said, we're going to continue the story after Crucible, I would be enthralled by that. I like a lot of the elements and story ideas in here. I just don't feel that they're executed the best in this 9 books. But I'm interested to see where the story would go by the end of this series. So, take that what you will. That's my rant. That's all she wrote. I'm getting spoilers now. If you don't want that, get out of here. After that huge thing, I already mentioned the Jedi and Sith Alliance and how cool that is, that the villains and the heroes have to work together. I mentioned Lost Tribe culture, because we get stuff with Astera's dad, and they're talking to one another, and he talks about, manipulating Ben, seducing him, imagine being a father and asking your daughter to seduce this young boy to get what you want. Don't actually love him, just use him, And, that's interesting, but at the same time, it's just oh, her dad's evil, but he loves her daughter. Isn't that deep? I just don't care. I mean, it is interesting how the Sith have worked for all these years while having to live as a communal society, so they can't just go killing each other left and right. So they have kind of formed this sort of compassion. There is a bit of light within the Lost Tribe, even though they're supposed to all be evil Sith. And so there's a thing there where you could do something really interesting with that, if you wanted to change the status quo of the EU, like James Luceno tried to do, like actually show that there could be Darksiders that are just, it's just a different philosophy. They are really just the light side. But as you'll see throughout, whether it be Fistera or any other character, that's just not true. They're bad. No matter what nuance they may have, they are at the end of the day a villain. So there's nothing really there to chew on. It does help further my point that Jason's whole view that you can be light or dark, or that those are meaningless terms because the Force is so much more unifying than that, is not true. Otherwise, these guys would just be good guys at this point because there's nothing about them that's inherently bad outside the fact that their name is Sith. So they have to be stereotypically evil. Vistara is the most nuanced, but by the end of the series, she still makes her choices. So I don't know, but I can't. If you love or are super fascinated by the Lost Tribe, please explain to me why you do. Maybe I can get a better perspective. Tahiri gets a lawyer, which is a neck butt-wise uncle or something, and this is really cool. I really like the old man sort of, kind of reminds me of the whole Yoda thing in episode 5, except that he's just a lawyer, and he's promises her, I can't promise you that you'll be freed of your charges, but I promise you to give the best defense I possibly can. And I don't know, I liked him a lot. One of the highlights of the book for me was just Raynar and Dorvin's friendship that they've been building, and I just thought it was really well written there. Oh, for a really stupid reason, I know it's going to be fixed later, so it doesn't matter, but the Jaina and Jag engagement ended because Jag won't give her ships and stuff to go help Luke, even though he gives several logical reasons as to why he can't. And she's like, I know he's an honorable man. He does what he has to do. But he'll never choose me over his duty. I must run away. And that's another thing. Another thing here that's been a significant problem for me is that, and this is a problem with Legacy of the Force too, but let's be honest here, this is also a problem with New Jedi Order. Even in her own book, Dark Journey. She didn't get the Stover treatment. She didn't get the deep character study treatment. I really don't care about Jaina. And I'm sorry if that's blasphemy to some of you. I really want to care about her. But from Young Jedi Knights, onward, I don't feel like anybody has done Jaina real justice. I don't feel like I know her intimately as well as Anakin or Jason. And I know that she's in this relationship with Jag, and I get the dynamics that she has with anyone. It's not that I don't understand her character or how she reacts to things. Like, I understand that fairly well. She's very much like Han Solo a lot. She's quick to anger, quick to get tempered, but very witty, very smart. I get everything about her, but I feel like I don't know her. I don't know if that's making sense, but I don't know her. And so we've been seeing her throughout these books of New Jedi Order, Dark Nest, Legacy of the Force, Fate of the Jedi, and I just don't care about her. And I'm sorry if that's blasphemous. Again, I'm not meaning to hurt your feelings if you're a big fan of Jaina. Like, I know a lot of people are. I know, like, Maxine is. I know Sir Freddy says that Jaina is one of his favorite female characters. And that's amazing, and I'm really glad for that. I'm really struggling to see it, to see whatever it is that other people are saying. Like, and another thing too, she says it even in this series, and of course we never got that trilogy that's called the Sword of the Jedi trilogy, but she's dubbed the Sword of the Jedi. Like, it's like this big thing, but I never feel like she does anything. I mean, yeah, she kills her brother. She's a big part of this series in helping defeat Abeloth and everything. But nothing she does ultimately really feels like that title, that special title, divinely brought down by the Force itself to her, Sword of the Jedi, ever holds weight in any of these series. I don't feel like she's earned it. And I guess that's subjective, but I just don't buy it. And so I really struggle whenever it focuses on her to really care. I cared about the whole Jason and her thing because I knew how that would affect her. And they did a good job of pretty much explaining that. And everyone else around and how they were all affected by it. But Jaina herself, like, she's very determined and driven, but why? Just her family, her friends, like, and I guess that is the case, but like, I just don't feel like I know her on a deep personal basis like I know the rest of them. And so I struggle to care as much. And maybe that's shame on me, but it's been a thing with me. Better Call Saul, we have the whole trial with Tahiri, and that was a very good scene. They do mention, and I don't like this, that there was sexual stuff that Jason and Tahiri dealt with together during the events of Legacy of the Force. I'm going to assume this has to be after he burns Kashyyyk. I'm unwilling to buy that Jason would do that beforehand, because it took until Tino Ka rejected him completely and utterly for him to go fully divulge into darkness. So I'm not willing to buy. I refuse to buy. I don't care what you say. That Jason would have had any sort of relations like that with Tahiri unless him and Tino Ka were already broken up. I don't buy it. But I can accept that maybe he did that, I guess. I don't like that at all. I actually know, I hate it. I don't think you should have any sexual relations with Tahiri at all. And I know this was kind of like slightly hinted at in Legacy of the Force, but it's never outright stated. Golden decided we're going to make that a fact here, and that pisses me off. But whatever, that's canon now. So, but the only way I'm accepting that is that if that happened after Tino Ka basically said, like, you're dead to me. That's the only way I'll accept that. And he kind of did that as retaliation. I don't know. No, I'm done. I'm moving on from that topic. I hate it. And that's not an objective thing or anything. I just hate it. The best part of the book. The best part of this book. No hate, no shade. Positivity. I'm sorry for all the negativity. The reveal about Mars' spirit and Callista was absolutely and utterly brilliant. If only the rest of the book was like that. But throughout the book, and I didn't mention it before because I knew I'd save it for this point here, Luke and Ben have felt like Mara's presence has been with them on the ship. Like they've been around, And Luke finally meets, or he talks to Mara one more time, and she tells him that wasn't me. And he realizes in that shocking moment that it was Abeloth the whole time they've been reaching out to him. And it's so violating and sickening and gross just to think about that, Think about your loved ones and someone pretending to be them or pretending to have the same sort of presence. So you get confused and you allow that the defenses to fall and that love to flow, only for it to not be the person you thought it was. And then, not only that, but Callista. Again, they didn't have to reference Callista. They haven't referenced Callista since Planet of Twilight. But here she is, after all this time. Except it's not Callista. It's Abeloth. But then, again, you have the answer. Where has Callista been since Planet of Twilight? She went searching for a way to fix her problems, only to come into contact with Abeloth and lose herself forever. Brilliant. That's so well done. Why couldn't the rest of this series be just like this portion? It was so good. Luke's reaction to his ex-girlfriend, basically this Abeloth creature parading this corpse around as her face. Like, it's so good. I have nothing but praises to say about this particular section. This was peak. Where was this for the other 400 or 300 pages? But it was absolutely a phenomenal ending to this book. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Everything about it. From the dialogue, to the fear you get, to the uncomfortableness you get, the feeling like you've been violated, to learning the fate of Callista. Like, all of this was just brilliant. Thank you so much, Golden, for this particular section. It was absolutely a standout of this entire book. And Tahiri seemingly loses her trial. So we'll see what happens in Vortex by Troy Denning when we get to that. Overall, those are my thoughts. I know it kind of sounds inherently negative. As I said, throughout the book, there are moments of sheer brilliance. But there's also, to me at least, so much schlock. And I apologize for having to sound so negative for this review. But I have to be honest, and this is my honesty coming through. Do I think it's a good book, or do I think it's at least a competently well-written book? Yes. I think I have a lot of personal gripes with it that are subjective. I think the thing that is consistently true is pacing. Though I do think this book is better paced than the previous 3 have been. I think the first one was paced fine. Second one, third one, and fourth one had a lot of pacing issues. Though when third was peak, when third was high, it was really high. Just like this book, when it's good, it's really good, and everything else is just kind of mediocre and okay. I don't do rating systems, but I say it's a net positive overall, but there is a lot of negatives in there. So, anyway, the funs of rereads, am I right? Up next, we have Vortex by Troy Denning. And I'll see you all and tell you what I'll think about it when we get there. Till next time, may the Force be with you.